Today we're going to look at the chart for, if we were to look at my name is Michael Mastro and welcome to my YouTube channel. We're going to use transformational Vedic astrology, which is the sidereal Vedic astrology chart as opposed to the Western tropical chart. The sidereal zodiac is more accurate in that it's where the planets actually were when you were born, if you were to ask an astronomer. And we give a lot of preference to the rising sign as opposed to the sun sign and the moon sign, which change. The sun sign changes once a month, the moon sign changes every 2.5 days, and the rising sign changes every 2.5 hours. So if you look to the eastern horizon when John was born, you would see the constellation associated with Cancer rising at 5 degrees and 52 minutes. And if you look at any planets that are within 5 degrees of that rising sign, for example, a sun is at 6 degrees. They have a lot of, any planets that are within 5 degrees have a lot of impact. So in this case, it's just the sun. So we want to look and see where the multitricona signs in this chart are, because those are the areas of the life that John Travolta came to work on. So multitricona signs are 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, and 11. So many planets rule 2 signs, but they are more closely connected with one sign than the other. For example, Venus rules Taurus and Libra, and Venus is all about relationships, and Venus, Libra is all about relationships, whereas Taurus is more about beauty and other things. So the multitricona sign for Venus is Libra, or the 7th sign. So these numbers refer to the signs. So you have Mars for Aries as a multitricona sign. You have Moon for Cancer as a multitricona sign. You have Sun for Leo. And you have Mercury for Virgo. And you have Venus for Libra. And you have Jupiter for Sagittarius. And you have Saturn for Capricorn. So he came here to work on his career, very important to him. He came to work on his life purpose, his health. Moon, he came here to work on wealth and recognition and continuation of the marital bond, success through acting or performing arts. He came here to work on happiness through home life, and planes are very important to him. This is also transportation and homes, a lot of homes. He came here to work on his health. This is Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter. And then he came here to work on drama. So actors usually have a multitricona sign in the 8th or the 12th house. And so the 8th house gives the ability to research roles and do really well at those. So this research into the deeper meaning of life through Scientology and through his acting roles. And this gives a lot of diversity in his acting roles with Mercury, Venus, and Sun in that 8th house. We already talked about career. So those are the areas of the life that he came to work on. Each house represents a certain area of life. So let's talk about the functional nature of the planets. So most Vedic astrologers say that Sun, Mars, and Saturn are always malefic, but I came to recognize as a young astrologer that many of my clients were going through Saturn periods, but they were doing really well, and then they all of a sudden would go into a Venus or a Jupiter period, which most Vedic astrologers say always bring good things, and they had a lot of hardships. So each sign has different uh, benefic and malefic planets. So wherever you see the Multrikona signs in the 6th, the 8th, or the 12th house, the Dustana or challenging houses, the ruler of those signs becomes malefic. So here we have Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter becomes functional malefic. It's in the 6th house of delays, setbacks, health issues. And then you have Aquarius ruled by Saturn in the 8th house of death-like experiences, vulnerability. So Saturn becomes functional malefic, as well as Rahu and Ketu that are malefic for each sign. Now that does not mean that malefic signs planets will cause harm. It's only through aspect in the transit of the birth chart that they can cause some issues. So mostly in this chart, those malefic signs are not causing any harm. They're benign. So let's go through how the planets are operating. So Sun is at 6 degrees, which is close to the most effective point. So it is it's ruling this house of wealth and fame and continuation of the marital bond, and it's placed in the 8th house of vulnerability. So it says there could be vulnerability in the marriage, but it does give this deeper insights into the meaning of life and the ability to be a great actor to give wealth and recognition. And let's see here. Moon is at 17 degrees. It rules the house of life, purpose, and health, and image, or how people see you. And Moon gives him a very handsome physique, and he was actually a sex symbol, and gives the ability to have wealth and fame through public performing um, and singing. And his mother, Moon represents mother, and his mother gave him a lot of support because she was a drama coach. Mars is at 11 degrees. It is aspected by Venus. Let's see. Oh, excuse me. It aspects Venus. And it is rules the house of career. So it gives career through this 5th house, which is entertainment. And Mars itself represents courage to act and also take on roles that give a lot of passion and action movies. He has a lot of versatility in his acting roles. So Mars gives all of that. And then Mars is also the intellect. So this could be connected to his interest in solid Scientology, education through Scientology. This house has to do with children and investments. So investing in properties. Mars represents properties. He has a lot of houses. Mercury is at 22 degrees. It's placed in the 8th house, but it rules this house of success through performing arts, and again gives that ability to research the parts. And actually, he's very critical of, he won't take any particular movie that's put his way. He's very critical of which parts he takes. Very discriminating. Jupiter's at 23 degrees, and we said it's functional malefic. So it is in the house of income. Jupiter itself represents children, so it can give some health issues for his children. It delayed his education since he quit high school to become a full-time actor. And then also Jupiter has to do with health. So during a Jupiter period, he did some binge eating, overeating, and became overweight. So Jupiter's connected to that as well. Venus, remember we said, is aspected by Mars, and it is at 11 degrees, ruling the house of happiness through family and home life, also properties, and it also represents vehicles. So he's very much into flying, has several planes. And Venus also represents wife. So being in a house of death-like experiences gave long-term illnesses to the loves of his life. He had two relationships with women who died of breast cancer. Most recently, Kelly, his present wife, passed away. So let's see here. And his first love was Diana, who was much older, but when he was very young, died in his arms. So then Saturn represents it is functional malefic as well. Rules the 8th house of death-like experiences, obstacles, and research, and windfalls. And it is placed in the house of happiness and home life. So it gives some death-like experiences for the family. He lost a son. Remember, Jupiter is sun. And he lost his two loves of his life. And Saturn also could have to do with his research into deeper meaning of life through Scientology. Rahu and Ketu always opposite each other. Rahu in the house of relationships can give some unusual relationships. His first relationship was with a much older woman. He also K2 being in that first house can bring some confusion about his identity. Apparently he's bisexual, reported to be. And the balancing of Rahu and K2. K2 is aversion to his persona and more in the desire for relationships. So let's look at the timing events, because not everything happens at once. In 1975, he got his first biggest acting role in Welcome Back, Kotter, and then also became involved in Scientology. And this was during a Rahu period. So Rahu gave, this house has to do with relationships with agents and getting parts and roles, and so Rahu gave that ambition for these relationships that led to his success in acting. In 1977, that first love of his life, Diana, died of breast cancer. And that was during a Moon-Saturn period. Saturn is death-like experiences. Moon is placed in this house of family, so death-like experiences for family. Moon also can represent the wife. So that. And then let's look at his, then towards the end of the 70s and the 80s, he became very popular. Saturday Night Fever, Grease, during the Rahu period, so gave him a lot of ambition to be successful. In 99, he had that binge eating issue during a Rahu K2 period where he wasn't doing much acting and he was kind of depressed, and so Rahu and K2 can create this kind of I want, I don't want, and led to gaining a lot of weight. Also, Jupiter was involved in the transit to bring on that issue. His son died in I think of a seizure during his sleep. During a Jupiter-Saturn period, Jupiter is children, Saturn is death-like experiences. July 12th, 2020, his wife Kelly died, breast cancer. That was during a Jupiter moon period. Again, Jupiter is illness. Moon is placed in this house of relationship, um, health issues for the relationship. And then also let's look at the transits at that time. So on the 12th of July, we have Sun moving through the house of endings and separations. And then we have Mercury and Rahu also in those. Rahu represent a relationship, end of relationship, and Mercury end of, creating some issues because Mercury is placed in the house of death-like experiences and vulnerability. But the biggest thing is that Rahu and Ketu are close to the rising sign degree. So they can, when they're within 5 degrees of the rising sign, they're at 4 and rising sign is 5. So they can afflict 6 out of his 12 houses. So they're afflicting the 4th house of family, the 6th house of health issues, the 8th house of death-like experiences and vulnerability, the 12th house of endings and separation, and the hospitalization, and then the 2nd house of the stability of the family. So all of those were involved, as well as Saturn is afflicting the 7th house of relationship. So Saturn is longevity, so cutting short the relationship basically. So what can we do to strengthen the chart? We want to strengthen or transform the malefic planets. So Jupiter, we want to. He had the John Travolta Charity Foundation, so giving to spiritual organizations, to Scientology in his case, and then Saturn giving to those people who cannot help themselves, Ganesh chants or any kind of chanting for Jupiter, Saturn, Shiva chants for Saturn, and then Rahu and Ketu also. So Rahu would be Shiva chants giving to those who cannot help themselves, and Ketu, again, spiritual organization. So in his case, it was Scientology. So he was really doing the charities that were helping. So they contributed to his success. Rahu, remember, it can either help you or bring you down. So in his case, it gave him a lot of ambition to succeed in his career, as well as these 3 planets here in that house of, researching your acting roles, creating a vulnerable persona that people really love your acting, basically. And the passion of it through Mars here, giving the passion to his acting abilities, his entertainment abilities. And then we want to strengthen Moon, Mars, Mercury, Venus, and Sun. You could do that with red coral, green emerald, diamond, ruby, and pearl. Or you could wear a kavash, which is a locket, silver locket, containing the Devata yantras for those planets, which is a much more economical and balanced way to strengthen the benefics. So thank you for listening to Transformation Vedic Astrology. My name again is Michael Mastro. If you would like to get your chart read, you could go to www.vastucreations.com. Or if you'd like to learn and become certified as a Vedic astrology, you can see this method of astrology is very direct, cuts through a lot of issues, and gets to a good result very quickly. So, American Institute of Vastu, you can learn and become certified in transformation Vedic astrology. Again, thank you for listening.